Good afternoon, gentle listeners. It's Erin, your librarian storyteller for the day. Welcome back to Legend and Lore, where every week I'll be telling you a handful of myths, folktales, and fairy tales that come from different cultures from all around the world, from Japan to South Africa, from Greece to Polynesia. This week I'll be regaling you with some Hindu legends and myths originating from India. Now make sure you stick around because at some point I'll be giving you a keyword to enter into your summer reading account. If you participate and earn enough points through those keywords, you might just win a fabulous prize. Now, with that message out of the way, let's dive into the world of Hindu mythology. Now, I'll be telling you some of my greatest and most personal favorite stories of Hinduism's many gods, but before I begin, here's a little background. Hindu mythology is most commonly considered as being very varied. There are a million possibilities, and they all exist simultaneously, so there's never one singular version of any tale. The tales themselves are very ambiguous, and while I'll be telling you as best I can the most popular versions of these stories, if you find yourself curious after my video and want to look them up yourself, you might find more than just my version out there among all the options. Again, the myths themselves are always very ambiguous, and they focus deeply on the linked contrast of nature and character. Good versus evil, peace versus war, kindness versus greed. There is a consistent balance and various sides to even the gods themselves, as just because you have a god of, say, death and destruction, that does not necessarily make them only evil. Death can lead the way to rebirth, and destruction can just mean the destruction of evil or the clearing of the way to something greater and better to grow in its place. The balance is the most important thing. And as reincarnation is a big thing with these guys, there's a lot of options there. My first story that I will be telling you is the story of Shiva and Parvati, both two a very prominent god and goddess in Hindu mythology, each part of their own version of a triad to represent the creation, preservation, and destruction of the universe. The Trimurti, which contains Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer, is the masculine version of this, and Tridevi is the female version of this, containing Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati, their female counterparts. Now, as I said, this story is about Shiva and Parvati, one of the most well-known couple gods of the mythology. But they didn't always start out that way, because initially Lord Shiva was intended to marry the goddess Sati, and did so, actually. They had a very happy marriage in the beginning, but it was not to last, for although Sati was deeply in love with her husband and he with her, her father did not respect Shiva, nor their marriage, and when she defied his wishes and chose to marry him regardless, he basically condemned her and cast her out of his family. He would speak no good of Shiva, spit on both him and her, and refused to invite the couple to any of his grand festivals and celebrations. Sati tried so many times to mend the gap between them, but it was all in vain. When the most prominent festivals that her father would throw arrived, and neither she or her husband received an invitation, Sati was still determined to go, to try one more time to repair the damage between them. But Shiva refused and said Sati would have to go by herself. Sati agreed to this, and upon arriving, however, found her father to be not very welcoming. He spat on her, pushed her around, and eventually threw her out, once again saying that she was no daughter of his. Absolutely ashamed of her father, Sati ended up killing herself at that very festival, determined to be reborn into a family and to a father who would love and respect her, and whom she could respect in turn. When Shiva sensed that his wife had killed herself, he entered into a deep set of mourning that lasted a long time. During this time, Sati's spirit reincarnated into a princess by the name of Parvati, the daughter of a very good and kind king and queen, Himavat and Manavati. From a very early age, Parvati was inflicted with visions and beliefs that she truly loved Shiva and that she would someday be his wife. While her parents did not necessarily approve of this, in the end they respected her wishes and her desire. So great was her decision that as soon as she became of a marriageable age, she went to the Himalayas to perform penance and to appease Lord Shiva and to marry him. Lord Shiva was very impressed by her devotion and knew her desire, but he was still in mourning for Sati, and instead he asked Parvati to serve him as a servant, where she would be given many difficult tasks in the hope that the rough life would dissuade her. But Parvati was pleased to serve him and stayed with him for many, many, many years, doing whatever she could to slowly and patiently earn his love. At the same time, however, the gods and the people were being terrorized by a horrible demon by the name of Taraka. When they approached the god Brahma for help, he prophesied that it would be Lord Shiva and Parvati's son that would kill the demon. But the gods were getting restless, and despite Parvati wanting to take her time, they decided to fast forward the efforts. Indra, the king of the gods, essentially, who has a very peculiar role in Hindu mythology, decided that he would send the Lord Kama, a cherub-like, Cupid-like god of love, to again fast forward this situation. Very mischievously, Kama hid, and as Parvati was working at Shiva's feet, sewing a garland, he immediately aimed an arrow at them and struck Lord Shiva right in the chest. When he opened his eyes, Lord Shiva's gaze fell upon Parvati and he fell deeply in love. But he knew instantly what had happened, and seeing Lord Kama trying to hide, his eyes blazed with fury, and he ended up turning the little mischievous god into ashes. So great was his anger that he banished Parvati from his abode forever. But Parvati would not be deterred. Going forth, she performed several exercises of penance, yoga, meditation, all forms, standing in hot coals even, for many years. Some even say thousands. And during this process of deep devotion and deep thought and the gentle drawing of her power, finally her consciousness broke through and she remembered that she had once been the goddess Sati. When this consciousness awoke in her, Lord Shiva sensed it as well, and he decided to test her. In the middle of her daily penance, Parvati was approached by a priest, and the priest asked her, "Why are you performing such severe penance, my dear? What in the world could you wish to attain?" Parvati told him, "I desire more than anything to marry Lord Shiva. I know we are meant to be together." The priest cringed and asked, "Why would a beautiful maiden like you want to marry someone who covers his body with ash and wears tiger skins? He is not worthy of your love, nor your devotion." Parvati was absolutely furious with the priest and said, "What do you know of him? I am the reincarnation of goddess Sati. I am his other half. We are incomplete without one another." With a smile, the priest suddenly changed his form, and Lord Shiva stood before her, true and as beautiful and strong as ever. And he finally consented to marry Parvati. The gods came down from the heavens, and the entire world celebrated the grand wedding of Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati. They retired to Mount Kailash again to lead a happy married life, where they eventually produced 2 sons and would watch over the world in its many stages through many different phases and many different faces. A happy story, I think. But not all the gods had so simple a life, if you can call that simple. For example, Vishnu, another member of the Trimurti, and also known as the Preserver, had a very, very difficult and confusing role in Hindu mythology, because he was never just himself. In fact, Vishnu had 10 other forms, 10 avatars, that he would take on one by one to protect the world. Whenever Dharma, or what is also known as law and order, is endangered in the world, Vishnu will reincarnate into the world to reestablish Dharma and to protect the good people and to destroy the evil elements of society. He has done this many times, and he will continue to do so. As of now, there have been 10 avatars of Vishnu, and each one has had a very different story and a very interesting life. The first was Mastya, a fish, as Vishnu's first incarnation. In the earliest era, a king was performing severe penance for thousands of years. One day, as he was performing his ablutions with river water, a small fish came into his hands, and just as he was about to throw the fish back into the river, the fish requested that the king save his life. Heeding his request, the king put the fish into a jar of water, but the fish started growing, and the jar was not big enough for it. The king threw the fish back into the river, but it outgrew the river, and onwards until finally he threw it into the ocean, and even then it was too big. The king finally realized that it was Lord Vishnu himself, and that the Lord made an appearance and made a special request for the king. It had predicted that the world would come to an end by a huge flood in 7 days, and requested that the king build a huge boat and take 7 sages, seeds of all plants, 1 animal of each type, and told them that he would appear as a fish to propel the boat to Mount Himavan for surviving the flood to the next era. True to his word, after 7 days, the Lord appeared, and the king tied his boat to the fish by using the royal serpent, Vasuki, and the fish took them all to Mount Himavan and kept them there until the flood was over, and in the new era, the king started procreation for the next age. The second avatar was Kurma, the turtle. In an ongoing saga of battle between gods and asuras, or demons, on one occasion the gods suddenly lost all their strength due to a curse by a short-tempered sage. The sage had once presented a garland of flowers to Indra, the king of the gods, who carelessly gave it away to his elephant, who trampled it. I know, not very wise. The gods asked Vishnu for help. Vishnu asked them to churn an ocean of milk after adding medicines into the ocean. Mount Mandara could be used as the churning stick. He requested the gods to ask help of the asuras in lifting the mountain in exchange for offering to share the nectar of immortality that would be made from the churning. Both the gods and the asuras churned the ocean using the serpent Vasuki as the rope. At the start, playing a very noteworthy trick, Indra, king of gods, asked the asuras for the head end of Vasuki, but the asuras, suspecting foul play, took the head end, only to be deceived as the poison from Vasuki was slowly weakening them. But as the churning was proceeding, the mountain was slowly sinking, and Lord Vishnu took the form of a turtle and kept the mountain afloat. As soon as the bowl of Amrita, the nectar of immortality, was created, the asuras grabbed it. Lord Vishnu took the form of an Apsara, a beautiful maiden, and seduced the asuras into letting her distribute the nectar and to also abide by her order of distribution. As soon as the gods were served, the maiden disappeared, thus completely deceiving the asuras and making them weak, very easy to be defeated. The third avatar of Lord Vishnu was Varaha, a boar. A particular demon, Hiranyaksha, had prayed for Lord Brahma and was rewarded a boon that no beast, no man, no god could kill him. But for some reason from the list of beasts, the name of boar was left out. This proved to be his end. He started a campaign of plunder across the world. He pushed the world so far to the brink, it ended up going under the sea. He stole the Vedas, the holy scriptures, from the Lord Brahma while he was asleep and performed horrible atrocities in their name. To retrieve the Vedas and to save the world, Lord Vishnu assumed the role of the boar and brought out the earth from under the ocean using his 2 tusks. He then killed Hiranyaksha and retrieved the Vedas from the Asura and brought it back to the safe custody of Lord Brahma. The fourth avatar was Narasimha, a semi-man, semi-lion. The king of the demons, the Asuras, Hiranyakasiapa, wanted to become immortal and wanted to remain young forever. For this, he meditated for Lord Brahma, and because of his severe penance, the gods were frightened and asked Brahma to pacify the king. Brahma was impressed by his austerity and granted him a wish. Hiranyakashyapa wished that he could neither be killed by a man nor a beast, nor in daylight nor at night, and neither inside nor outside of a building. Having obtained the wish, he considered himself the supreme god and forbade all other worship of gods by anyone else. But his son, Prahlada, was an ardent devotee of Vishnu. Now this made his father very angry. He ordered numerous ways to kill Prahlada, including asking his sister Holika to sit with Prahlada in the fire. But every time Prahlada escaped unhurt. Enraged once, he asked Prahlada to show him the Lord Vishnu if he was so great. Prahlada responded, "He is everywhere." Further enraged, Hiranyakashipa knocked down a pillar and asked if the Lord was present there. Lord Vishnu then emerged as a half lion, half man from the pillar, which was neither inside the house nor outside, and the time was evening, neither day nor night. He killed Hiranyakashipa, thus saving the life of Prahlada. The fifth avatar was Vamana, a dwarf priest. Bali, the grandson of Prahlada, was a very valorous and mighty god. By his penance and might he conquered the whole world, and Indra and the other gods feared that he and the Asuras would conquer all of the worlds, and went to Lord Vishnu for help. Vishnu was then born as the priest of Vamana in the household of another priest. He went to Bali on growing up and asked for alms. Bali was delighted to offer him anything he requested, even though the priest warned him that it was Lord Vishnu, but he did not believe them. Vamana then requested for the amount of land that could come under his 3 feet. Bali gracefully agreed. Lord Vishnu then grew in size and covered the earth and heaven in 2 strides. And due to a lack of space, he put his 3rd leg on Bali himself and crushed him to the netherworld. Thus the gods were saved once more. The sixth avatar of Vishnu was Parasurama, who this time had incarnated himself as a priest in the world. He was brought into the world to avenge all Kshatriyas, who were members of the 4 great Hindu castes, the military caste. They were meant to protect society by fighting in wartime and governing in peacetime. They had become arrogant and were suppressing the priests of the world. He was born to a man by the name of Jamadangi and a woman named Renuka, and thus belonged to the Bhrigu clan. Parasurama was always carrying an axe that was presented to him by Lord Shiva, of whom he was an ardent devotee. A powerful king once went to his earthly father's home when he was out, and after the meal stole the Kamadhenu cow, which was supposed to give endless quantity of milk. Jamadagni was enraged, and he went out and killed the king and brought the cow back. But on hearing this, the son of the king went out and killed Jamadagni in revenge. Parasurama was so enraged at this and went and avenged the death of his father by killing all Kshatriyas in 21 battles. My apologies. The 7th avatar of Lord Vishnu was Rama, a central character in the epic Ramayana. In the epic, the character Rama is expected to show the world the characteristics of an ideal person, which includes being the ideal son, the ideal husband, the ideal king, and just an ideal individual altogether. He was born onto the world to get rid of the demon with 10 heads, Ravana, who had been granted as a boon by Brahma of immunity from gods and other celestial beings. Ravana was too vainglorious to be thinking of being vanquished by a man. Hence Rama was born, and Lakshmi, the wife of Lord Vishnu, was born as Sita, his wife to be in this life. The story of Ramayana is a wild tale, and the war raged by Rama against various evil elements of the world, and in the end against Ravana. Rama is meant to empathize the ideal behavior of man, with a very special focus on a woman and man's relationship, a son and father's relationship, and the ideal governing style of a king. The eighth incarnation, the eighth avatar, is Krishna, a central character in the epic Mahabharata. It is the biggest epic in Indian mythology. A myriad of topics are covered, including war, love, brotherhood, politics. It is essentially the story of two warring groups of cousin brothers, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. During this war that they held, Krishna gives a long discourse to his disciple Arjuna, collectively termed as Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, during his childhood, was responsible for the killing of Kasma. Krishna is also considered to be a very popular gentleman with the ladies, who is responsible for charming every single woman around him. While his previous incarnation was very devoted to presenting the ideal form of a man, this story deals more with human issues, human nature, politics, vices and virtues, and does not attempt to make either Krishna or any other character that he comes about as greater than themselves. The ninth incarnation is probably one that you've heard. The Buddha, the eccentric prince who renounced the throne to lead the world into a path of peace, the founder of Buddhist religion, prominent around the world. He is considered to be in certain sects of Hinduism, he is considered to be a divine incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Born as a crown prince of the Kapilvastu to Sudona and Maya, he was named Siddhartha, meaning all things fulfilled, by the king. After his mother died, soon after his birth, the sister of Maya brought the boy up. But Buddha was very saddened by the death of living creatures, and since his childhood days he used to question, "Alas, do all living creatures kill each other?" He could not be satisfied with any answers that were provided to him, and decided to find the meaning of life and the absolute truths of the world by himself. He left his wife and his child to a hermit's life in the forest, and one day became the enlightened one. His preachings created the religion of Buddhism, now popular around the world. The last incarnation, the 10th incarnation, is one that has not yet come about. Kalki, the Avatar Kalki, the machine man who will come riding his white horse with a blazing sword in his hands. This is the future avatar of Lord Vishnu. At the end of the present era, he will come. He will punish all evildoers in this world, destroy the world, and reincarnate and recreate a golden age once more. He is the last of the avatars, and he is the future that the Hindu mythology looks forward to. So as you see, Vishnu had a very complicated life. Preserving the natural state of law and order is not an easy task, and he has had to go through quite a lot to do so. Now that we have finished with that story, it is now actually time for me to tell you the keyword of the day. I could make it a name of a god, but I decided to take it a little easy on you. The keyword of the day is Dharma, which is the situation of law and order in the world that Vishnu protects so preciously. All capitals now, D-H-A-R-M-A. Dharma is an important law to follow and one that is very paramount in their mythology. My last story of the day is the story of one of the most well-known gods of Hindu mythology, that even if you don't know the story itself, you might recognize this god simply by its appearance. This is the story of Ganesh, or Ganesha, also known. He is the god of new beginnings, success, and wisdom, and he is the remover of obstacles. He might be literal about it. He might be not so much. The clearing of your mind, the clearing of a pathway. He is also the second son of Shiva and Parvati, and has had actually an interaction with the sixth incarnation of Vishnu, Parasurama. I'm going to be telling you the story, a two-part story, two of the most prominent stories, really. How Ganesha got his elephant head, which is how many of you might recognize him, and how Ganesha eventually would lose his tusk, as he is also often portrayed. The most well-known story comes from, well, in all honesty, it's a story of family, truly. How Ganesha got his elephant head is a story of misunderstandings and deep devotion for his mother. Parvati had been preparing for a bath. She did not wish to be disturbed, and since the god Nandi was not at Kailash to keep guard of the door, Parvati took the turmeric paste that she used for bathing from her body and made a form of a boy and breathed life into him. The boy was then instructed by Parvati to guard the door and to not let anyone in until she finished her bath. Now Shiva had been in the process of meditation, and when he came out, he went to find his wife, but he found himself being stopped by a strange boy he did not recognize. Shiva tried to reason with the boy, saying that he was Parvati's husband and she should be allowed to see her no matter what, but the boy was very determined, and he refused to let Shiva enter until his mother, Parvati, had finished her bath. The boy's insolence surprised Shiva, to say the very least, and he could automatically tell that the boy was not normal. And, as was his wont, though being typically peaceful, he was known to moments of rage, decided that he would have to fight the boy in order to visit his wife. And in his exuberance, accidentally decapitated the boy from his head from his shoulders, killing him instantly. When Parvati discovered what had happened, she was so furious, and she was so upset with her husband that she decided to destroy the entirety of creation. In just an instant, she had summoned one of her most powerful forms. Multi-armed arms arose from her body and threatened to destroy everything in its path. Lord Brahma, the creator, did not exactly want this to happen, and begged and pleaded that she reconsider this very drastic term of action. Parvati eventually said that she would reconsider her actions, but only if two conditions were met. One, that the boy was brought back to life, and two, that he be forever worshipped before all the other gods. Now Shiva had a little time to cool his head by this point, and also did not really want the world to be destroyed, despite being known as the Destroyer, and agreed to Parvati's conditions. He sent out his men to bring back the head of the first creature that they found dead in the world, with its head facing north. When they returned with the head of a strong and powerful elephant, Lord Brahma placed it upon the boy's head and breathed new life into it, and he was declared as Ganesha, in giving the status of the foremost among the gods and leader of all the classes of beings. And thus Ganesha was brought into the world and seen as such a popular creature that he is known today. Now, of course, there's also the story of how he lost his tusk. Again, this story has a lot of variations to it, but my personal favorite is the story where it is lost in a duel with Parasurama, the sixth avatar of Vishnu, who was a devoted follower of Shiva. One day, Parasurama went to go visit Shiva, but along the way, he was blocked by Ganesha. Ganesha did not recognize Parasurama, and Parasurama did not recognize Ganesha, and so that they thought the other was due to harm mighty Shiva. The two began to fight, Parasurama hurling himself at Ganesha with his axe held high. And while the fight lasted for a while, eventually Ganesha recognized that the axe was a gift from Shiva, and instead of meeting Parasurama's blow head-on, lowered his weapons, lowered his hands, and allowed himself to be struck, and lost his tusk in the process. He yielded so that his father's gift would not appear weak, for if Ganesha had put forth the entirety of his strength forward, Parasurama would be defeated, yes, but Shiva's axe would appear weak, and the shame and create a shame of his father that he could not bear. In this way, Ganesha showed remarkable resilience, sacrifice, and wisdom. And great peace was ended as a result of this. There are many continuations of this story of how Parvati was remarkably angry to find her son without a tusk, but let's just I say we probably leave it at that, with Ganesha simply acting in the way of a devoted son, and Parasurama eventually realizing the errors of his ways, and everyone ending up being friends again. A simpler story, but an important one as well. The sacrifices we make for one's family are quite remarkable. That is the end of my stories for today, gentle listeners. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope very much that you'll tune in next time, because we have more cultures to explore, more gods to interact with, and more stories to pass on. Have a wonderful rest of the day, be well, and I shall see you very soon. Goodbye!